I know.
Okay, hang on. Okay, welcome to the 2022 annual meeting. This is our 101st annual meeting. We'd hoped to have this meeting in person, but with COVID on the rise again, we changed our mind. I'm very sorry. I would like to call this meeting, annual meeting of the League of Women Voters of the Montclair area to order at 7:03 p.m. So welcome. Let me introduce the executive committee. I'm your president, Liz. I am available, well, not at 3 o'clock in the morning, but most other times, and I try to answer text promptly. Who's next? Okay, the two vice presidents, Susan Mack. Susan, can we see you or?
Yeah, my apologies to everyone. I'm having Zoom issues, so it's just going to be my face there.
Okay, and Donna Ward. Donna,
Hey, everybody. Hello.
Okay. Our secretary, Louise Haberman, was not able to be here tonight, so acting in her place is our treasurer, Carmel Lockman. Carmel, wave to the camera, please. Okay. Also, supposedly, I don't know whether she's here yet, but lurking in the background will be our state president, Jennifer Howard. She didn't really want to speak, but she just wanted to kind of check us out. So welcome to her. We have other directors and board members who will be introduced later on in the meeting. And thank you all for your commitment to democracy. In my entire life, I've never seen our democracy in danger like I have today. So thank you very much. The league is kind of a last resort because we at least try to be non-political. I lost the Zoom. What happened? Can you see me?
I can see.
Yeah,
I can see you.
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I lost the picture.
That's okay, Liz. We can see you.
Okay,
And-
good. Okay, well, I'm turning it over to you anyway at this moment, Don.
All right. Thanks,
There we
Liz.
go.
And
Okay,
hello, everybody. Great. Thanks, Liz. And as Liz said, I'm Donna Ward. I'm one of the vice presidents and chair of voter services. And I thought as we kick off our annual program for tonight, we thought it would be appropriate to share a video from Dr. Deborah Turner, who's the president of the League of Women Voters of the US. So let me see if I can share my screen and show you the video of her remarks, which I think are very timely as a reminder of the mission of the League of Women Voters.
Greetings, everyone. I am delighted to have this opportunity to share some thoughts with you, reflecting on our past 2 years and gearing up for the critical 2022 election cycle. I do not have to remind you that 2021 was a challenging year, nor do I have to emphasize that many of those challenges are being carried forward into 2022. We remain in the shadow of COVID-19, which affects every aspect of our lives, including our work to empower voters and protect democracy. And we face an unprecedented challenge to our democracy, one that has been on the rise for many years. After an election in which the country had the highest voter turnout in nearly a century, our peaceful, democratic transition of power was challenged by an insurgency that made us look at our democracy with new eyes. We have perhaps naively hoped that the guardrails of our democracy would be enough to avert any serious challenges, but 2021 pushed this concern to the forefront. And yet, It is not the time to abandon hope, but it is time to couple hope with decisive action. Democracies are strong and fragile, even here in America. They require ongoing commitment for survival. That is why we have to recommit ourselves to protecting our democracy and expanding it to truly include everyone in our nation. At all levels of League, I am proud of how we work year-round to register new voters, host community forums and debates, educate people on topics critical to our democracy, and provide accurate and up-to-date voting information through vote411.org. We hold rallies, we lobby elected officials, we protest at the White House and Congress, we even get arrested. We work with our partners to expand opportunities and challenge injustices, and we turn out on election day. That is the role of the League of Women Voters, and we do it with passion and integrity. Yet, powerful forces continue to work against us. Dozens of new anti-voter laws have been passed since 2020. Misinformation and disinformation, particularly the big lie, continue to erode public trust in our elections. These threats are alarming, and they reveal a very important truth. Democracy is never guaranteed. We must continue to fight for and defend our right to a government by the people, for the people, all the people. Yet the forces working against us are powerful, but we must affirm that we hold great power as well. Women have powered democracy for over 100 years. In 2022, as we have always done, we will work together to make the promise of democracy real for every American. At the core of our mission is expanding the franchise, registering people to vote, breaking down deliberate barriers to the ballot box, fighting to make sure every voter has access to cast their ballot freely, safely, and equally. This year, we will empower voters through Vote 411 with knowledge around elections and the voting process. We will fight disinformation by providing voters in every state with accurate, trusted, and updated election information. Your work in your states and communities will be crucial on this front. We will continue our work to block gerrymandering from creating unfair advantages for any political party and ensure fair political maps in all 50 states. And we will fight for DC statehood. We will be champions for voters' rights in the halls of power, advocating in legislatures and fighting in the courts so that every voter has fair, equitable access to make their voice heard. Our work is more important than ever, and we must stand in our power. Our network is vast because it is rooted in our communities. Our passion runs deep, and our voices together form a resounding chorus. We are one league, and we fight on behalf of every voter in every corner of this country. Through a pandemic, through resistance from powerful special interests, our league presses on, and we are stronger than ever. Let us join together as one League of Women Voters to empower voters and defend democracy. Thank you.
So I think that Dr. Turner does an excellent job of reminding us all what it is that our mission as we work on league issues. And that's what we're going to be talking about in detail tonight about specifically what is our league doing to do the things that Dr. Turner is talking about in her video. So, but before we go on to 2022 and beyond, it's always good to remind ourselves what we did right last year. She talked about 2021 being a very challenging year for the league nationally. It was certainly challenging for us here locally and for all of us here on this phone call. But even despite that, despite all the challenges, posed by COVID restrictions, we were able to get a lot of work done in our league. We should feel very proud of that. We were able to conduct over 30 voter registration and events across the county. And again, focus mostly on trying to educate people about the changes that have happened in New Jersey to the voting process, because each election cycle, there are changes being enacted, and it's very difficult for the average voter to remember, are we having early voting? Is it going to be all mail-in ballot? Is it going to be, do I have to ask for a mail-in ballot? So it's an ongoing challenge that we have to do about educating voters. And we were able to do that this year. We were able to do 4 candidates forums. We also put together a Civics 101 presentation on the structure of the New Jersey government for the West Caldwell Library. We'll talk more the importance of civics education. That's part of our platform that we're going to be talking about tonight. We also put together a program on why voting matters and presented that to New Jersey LEAP, which is a youth group in Newark, trying to convince, because the continuing trend of young people not participating in voting is alarming. And so one of the things that our youth voter education group is trying to do is trying to create interactive programs to kind of get young people not only just registered, but actually committed to go out and vote. We were heavily involved, as you know, in the Montclair Board of Education referendum advocacy, through our website, through our own consensus meeting. We ran articles, we did a social media campaign, we ran forums, and also get out the vote effort. And I feel very proud of the work that we did in defending our position, which was not a popular position. It went down in defeat, but it's not due to the lack of effort that we gave. But the voters in Montclair have spoken, and we respect that. We also did a virtual student orientation on voting at NJIT. So as the world has pivoted to doing more Zoom events, we've been able to do that as well. In terms of voter advocacy, our Social Justice Committee sent out 2,500 postcards to Arizona in support of their voting rights bills, and also had, hopefully many of you attended, an online presentation on the filibuster, whether it should be kept or removed, which was very educational. And in terms of membership, our league, we're great. We continue to attract new members, over 43 new members. We continue to be the largest league in New Jersey. And I think in the midst of a pandemic, to attract 43 new members is tremendous. But I also suspect it has something to do with other people as being alarmed, as you are, and as Dr. Turner mentioned, about the state of democracy now and the need to take some action. So we should, all of you who contributed time and effort to this, we really appreciate it. I think last year was a tremendous year, but now as we come out of COVID, there's more that can be done, and that's what we'd like to talk about tonight. So I'd like to turn it back, Liz, to you.
Okay, tonight we have some decisions that we have to be made. I hate reading slides, but we're discussing and voting on the budget for next year. A possible change in membership fees, revised bylaws, new program positions, and the new nominating slate. So wait, before you start with that, I just want to let everybody know that the minutes from last year's meeting were approved at the first meeting of the new board. Okay. All right. Back to you, Donna. Or Carmel.
And now we're going to have Carmel, who's going to take us through the proposed budget for this year.
Okay, so this is the proposed budget for fiscal year April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023. This was developed by a budget committee that consists of Joanna Edge with the members Norm Solomon and myself. To many people, numbers can look pretty mysterious, such that we throw up our hands and just move on from them. To me, numbers tell a story. Let's just first understand what we're looking at. Our league has 2 separately funded sides. Its operating budget, which is what we are looking at now, and its education fund budget, which we will review at a separate meeting. We are projecting $8,900 in income for the coming year. This is a conservative projection based on what happened last year and what we think will happen this year. The majority of this income comes from the dues we receive, small donations that are made, and very small interest on our bank balance. The next category is expenses. I have categorized our expenses as fixed and discretionary. Fixed expenses are those expenses that must be paid to keep our organization going. We have little to no choice about paying these if we want to keep our doors open and fulfill our mission. Some examples of our major fixed expenses are insurance premiums, website fees, our post office box, Zoom fees, our computer fees, and the dues paid to the League of Women Voters state and national organizations. These are our major expenses, as we retain only about 70% of the dues that we get. We also make a contribution to the education fund out of our operating budget. This education fund has a separate budget by law, as it is a 501 tax deductible vehicle, but it is closely tied to our operating fund. Out of the ed fund, we pay costs associated with voter services, voter registration, and education programs. The next category is discretionary expenses. Discretionary expenses are those that, in theory, we could eliminate. These are things like the cost to send members to the annual convention, our environmental and other advocacy programs, cost to solicit new members. But in reality, these expenses reflect the goals of our organization, learning, advocacy, and growth, and are supported by the board. At the time this budget was developed, we projected a deficit of $2,200. So what's the real story behind these numbers? The first thing to note is that this is only a snapshot of a moment in time put together with the information we then had. While the budget itself won't change over the next year, other things do. For example, since the budget was crafted in February, we received a $500 grant to our education fund from Blue Foundry Bank. We had one individual pledge a significant contribution to our convention costs. Both these items will reduce our deficit to about $200. So the real story is that we are on solid footing, but we operate on a very lean budget. Here is what we are doing as financial stewards of our organization. We are proposing a modest increase in dues. That increase is built into this budget. Susan is doing a terrific job in increasing our membership. This is likely helped along by the scary political times we live in, where voting rights are threatened and people want to help. They see the League of Women Voters as an organization dedicated to voter rights, services, and education, so they join up with us. With respect, with respect to advocacy, many times we get targeted donations that cover all our advocacy costs, or most of them. For example, last year we advocated for an appointed Board of Ed in Montclair. This costs about $3,500. However, all but $500 of these expenses were paid for by individual members passionate about this cause. We are a grassroots organization that takes its lead from its members. This year, thanks to Norm and Ron, we have greatly increased our presence in the environmental arena, so we budgeted for these costs. We really do not want to cut back on activities, but we do want to only fund those that are meaningful to a representative number of our members. What I would really like to talk about now is legacy giving. Legacy giving concerns how we distribute money in our will, IRAs, or life insurance policies. We are an aging organization. I would venture to guess that the majority of our members are women over 60. We are women who broke the glass ceiling in our professions. We were the first generation to have both careers and families. We were on the battlefront to promote women's rights. We were the first who earned our own money. So many of you are awesome models to our younger members. I know we all come from a generation where it might be considered crass to talk about money, but we need to let that go. I would like to ask all of you to consider naming our Montclair League as a beneficiary in your will, IRA, or insurance policy, and leave our local league money to help continue the fight begun by the original suffragists over 100 years ago to empower voters and protect our democracy. Any discussion?
No, Carl, I like it. You're asking for the order, asking for the money. It's good.
I know it's really hard to ask for money, I think, but I'm over it. I'm asking.
We can't be that way. We can't be that way.
No, it's going to be the theme of my treasury function this year, as well as trying to get grants from other organizations. We were successful in getting $500 from Blue Foundry, and I'll continue that effort.
You got a couple questions. There are questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, questions.
Sorry.
Did you misspeak when you said that we keep 75%?
No, I'm sorry, I did. It's just the opposite. We pay about 70% to the state and national, excuse me. So we really, you know, when you think of the dues that you pay, very little of it really goes to our local league you know.
I have a question, just because I've been involved in fundraising in different organizations. So is there a fundraising committee? So you're the treasurer, but is there a fundraising committee that gets together to brainstorm ideas for ways to raise money? And because sometimes this is like a resource issue, like a human resource issue, where you just need the people to get together, and then you start making calls, you brainstorm idea how you're going to raise it, and then figure out, like, you know, I don't know what the limitations are to raising money for the League of Women Voters. Like, I don't know what the rules and boundaries
No,
are.
there's no limitations. We're happy to accept whatever money you give us. Most people like to donate to the education fund because they get a tax deduction. Right now, we do not have a fundraising committee, but certainly, Jamie, that's something that we'll put on our agenda.
I would put it on, and I would actually be interested in that. Just, I mean, I work in sales. This is what I do. I'm always asking for money. I have no problem asking for money. So it seems like we need money. So, you know,
Did I hear that correctly?
yes,
Nobody wants to
I
do
love
something.
talking about money.
I know, it's so.
Okay, Jamie, you have spoken.
But I think there's a lot of cool things we could do. I don't know if there's any sort of like crowdfunding. I don't know. Are there limitations? Are there certain limitations we have because we're a 501c3? I don't know. Like, maybe do a fraud, and also people who give, if they're still working there, you can have your corporation do a match. So now you double the funding. I mean, those are like simple little things, but if you associate it with a specific initiative, whether it's, you know, fighting climate
Reproduction
change,
rights or
Roe v.
something.
Wade, or like I saw that you have this dance party coming up. That's a great idea. I like that idea. But you know, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of ideas. It's just a matter of getting people together. So I think a fundraising committee might be interesting.
Well, if I heard you correctly, and I'm the person taking the minutes, Jamie Duffy is very willing to form and be part of a fundraising committee this year.
I'm very willing to be part of a fundraising committee. Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm spelling.
Well,
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I guess I can't see everybody's face, but it looks like maybe there's no more questions. I want to thank Carmel for such a clear explanation of our financial situation. And I motion that we approve the budget as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All opposed? None. So I hear no opposition and all in favor. Thank you.
So now and again, my apologies for not having my true face up there, but I will be talking about the proposed membership dues changes. And this came out from our last annual meeting in May of last year. And that was, we decided at that meeting to have a different fee for folks who paid by cash or check and folks that paid by credit card. Well, what happened was there were some challenges when it came to the website. So that kind of prompted us to look at what our fees were. Our dues, I'm sorry. I've been in the league since 2017 and we have not ever raised our dues in that 5-year period of time. So that I looked at the other leagues in New Jersey and what they were paying. Luckily, the state's membership committee did this already. And it looks like we were kind of on the lower end of the membership dues. So what we're trying to do now is reflect to be more in line with the other leagues. So as shown here, and this reflects what Carmel was talking about too, we have 4 different types, but life members don't pay anything since they've been in the league for 50 years. I'll do the easy ones. The students pay $10. And then there's individual, which is just a sole person, or a householdage if you have 2 or 3 people in the same house. So currently we have $65 for folks paying cash or check. and $68 for credit for an individual. And what we're proposing is on the bottom, $70 would be a $5 increase if you pay cash or check, and it will stay $70. So the website can be more user-friendly. It will be the same price, cash or credit, and it'll be $70 for a credit card, which is a $2 increase. And as shown here, with the proposed dues, the LWV US charges us $32 out of that $70 that we receive. And then we will be receiving hopefully. And then the New Jersey charges us $23. So out of the $70, we will only get 15. And then as you see on the top, kind of run around a little bit, out of the $65, we are only getting $10 currently. So it's less than, I think it's like 12 or 15% of the total. So we really don't retain that much of the dues. So just to be clear, so we're now charging 65 and 68 for individuals, and what the proposal is that we would charge $70 for dues, whether it's cash or credit for an individual. As for the household, we're currently paying 90 and 93 for cash and credit card, and that the proposal, and you can see here, we're only getting $7.50 or $7.70 for the household. And then for proposed dues, we would charge $100 for a household, whether it was cash, check, or credit card. Any comments or questions on this?
So can I make, seeing no questions, can I make a motion to accept the proposed dues increase? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, hearing no opposition, this motion passes.
Thank you. And I will switch it over to Norm Solomon, who was our leader in the proposed bylaw changes.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet some of you for the first time. I've enjoyed being with the league, but it hasn't been long, but we've been busy. In preparing for the annual meeting, we took a look at the bylaws, and aside from, with due respect to previous authors, aside from some typos and some misplaced provisions, we realized that there were some important provisions that needed to be either modified or added to the bylaws to cover some of the things that we're doing now and on into the future. So what I've covered for you, and there will be lots of small things based on nomenclature and whatever throughout the bylaws, but we're going to touch on just really briefly 6 of the major issues that we covered. Please click. Who's clicking for me?
I did.
Thank you. So the first thing we wanted to do is clarify issues of related to the terms of officers, directors, and committee chairs. The second one was to deal with changes of directors, officers, and committee chairs and the processes that we use. Oh, it's clicking on time. That's what it's doing. Okay, great. The processes we use to fill vacancies that occur. What the responsibilities of the directors and officers has been clarified. You can click if it won't. There we go. The rules and the roles of the executive committee really weren't covered at all in the bylaws, so we've added that. The next one is conflict of interest, definitions and provisions relating to conflicts of interest for the important people in our league. And lastly, I guess it's called D&O, E&O. So we're talking about, for directors and officers, errors and omissions, insurance coverage, simply because if something were to happen untoward, or if someone without anything bad having happened decided to bring a suit against the league, they would probably sue the officers and directors of the league. And so when those officers and directors do their duty in a reasonable and appropriate manner, the league is going to foot the bill, and it's not an excessive amount of money at all. And it's built into Carmel's budget to pay for insurance to cover them against any suits that might be brought against individuals rather than the league itself. So there are other things you can find in the bylaws, but please feel free to look at them. Does anyone have any questions, or is there any kind of discussion? Okay, thank you. Motion?
Carmel?
I'm coming. I make a motion to accept the bylaws as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Um,
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Okay, I hear no opposition, so this is accepted and the motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Norm, and for the bylaws. So now shifting gears, now we're going to move into our actual program, recommended program for 2022, 2023 for our league. And again, we should have said at the beginning, all these materials are in depth in the packet that was sent to you. So hopefully if you're following along, you can follow along with the PowerPoint slides if you have any questions. But the first part of our program are what have we chosen to focus on out of all the plethora of policy and positions that are provided by the league at the national level and at the New Jersey level. And these are the ones that we said we want to form the core of our program. And Karma will talk about local Montclair positions, but these are just the ones that also have national or New Jersey positions. So at the top, we say our primary focus is around everything related to the campaign for making democracy work that the league is focusing on. And if you remember, we keep repeating what these are. This is voting rights, improving elections, money in politics, and redistricting, all the stuff that Dr. Turner talked about in the video. In addition, in the education area, we say that we want to monitor reforms and changing requirements when it comes to education. We also newly are putting in something that's just been enacted in the state, which is that we support the implementation of a new law called the Laura Wooten Law for middle school civics education that was just signed last year. And our league was instrumental in advocating for this. This is the one that mandates that at least in order to fulfill the middle school social studies requirement, each kid has to take at least one course in civics education related to government, of how the government works in the US. The other part of our education forum is a new area that is looking at critical thinking in our schools. But I'm going to turn this over to Doris to have explain in a little bit more detail. What do we mean by this?
Hi, everybody. We'd like to include in studying civics the idea of critical thinking. These skills have proved to be especially important in people's ability to differentiate between false information, such as conspiracy theories, and truth. And we think that training has to start even younger than middle school for children to be able to make differentiations when they see it.
Okay, thanks, Doris. When it comes to the environment, as part of the league has a lot of positions when it comes to the environment, but particularly when it relates to encouraging recycling, waste reduction, pollution control, and overall wise resource management. Obviously reducing climate change. We have a whole toolkit for climate change. We have an active environmental committee, which Norm heads, which is working on all these fronts. When it comes to social policy and women's and family issues, we have a social justice committee. We're saying we want to continue to advocate for reproductive freedom rights and eliminate human trafficking. So for example, can you just go back? So for example, the league yesterday at the US level, participated in the Black Women Leaders and Allies for Voting Rights and Reproductive Justice rally at the Supreme Court. So the US League and the New Jersey League are very active when it comes to reproductive freedom rights. Voter registration and engagement, obviously our core, registering and educating voters and getting out the vote. And we talked about, running candidates forums, other issues that the league is involved in, advocating for the elimination of the Electoral College and passing voter rights legislation. So that's our overall program that we're recommending for the national and the state positions. So before I turn this over to Carmel to talk about our local Montclair positions, is there any discussion about any of these? I'm not seeing. Oh, Ricky, were you raising your hand? I can't tell. You'll have to shout out. No, okay.
we'll have
I'm not-
more
Sorry?
And we will have more time to discuss more specifics on what we're doing for the coming up year later in the presentation. But if there's no more questions or any discussion, I motion that we adopt this as our LWV MA program planning for next year.
So all those in favor of adopting this, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there anybody opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay, so thank you. That has been adopted. So now we can move on to the local Montclair positions, and I'll turn it over to Carmel.
Okay, so these are positions that we have on the books, so to speak, and they just deal with Montclair. In theory, they could be other positions that deal with other towns in the Montclair area, but it just so happens that we just have positions that deal with Montclair. The first one is to support the zoning code changes to permit accessory dwelling units in Montclair. There has been an accessory dwelling unit law on the books since about at least 10 years, but there's a movement in town now to upgrade that ordinance. And maybe an accessory dwelling unit, you might think of it as a granny flat or an apartment above a garage, if you don't know what that is. So what we're supporting is the change in the zoning law that would permit these accessory dwelling units to be built in Montclair. And there's all kinds of rules and regulations around them, which I'm happy to discuss at another time, but that's the general gist of what we support. With respect to local government, we want to drop this obsolete position in support of a council manager form of government in Montclair. And I say obsolete because this position was adopted in 1979. And the arguments were, we had at that time, a council was a commission form of government where every councillor was voted on at large. The council basically ran the government. Each different councillor had a department that he ran, and that was defeated by referendum and a council manager form of government, which is what we have now in Montclair, where you have a third-party town manager, and then you have the council who does policy and develops ordinances. So we don't really need to have this on the books anymore, so to speak, because there's no argument that the council manager is now and has been since 1979, the form of government in Montclair. The league has a position in support of the municipal election in May. And we'd like to drop that positions because I think during a lot of the research we did last year says one of the main things that gets voters to the polls is to have the municipal election at the same time as the general election. So that's in November. So we would like to drop the league's current position of supporting Montclair's nonpartisan municipal election in May. And the last thing is with respect to education. As you know, last year, Montclair had a referendum in favor of an elected board of ed. This was soundly defeated, 80%, 20%. So, that's kind of asked and answered. But what we would like to support is a consensus for an independent advisory committee of community members to identify and nominate Board of Ed candidates. So those are the four things that deal with Montclair. And I'm opening this up to discussion and questions.
Question in terms of, I was part of this, but in terms of the advisory committee for to help identify and nominate BOE candidates, would we help create this committee or would we be part of the committee?
I think what we'd like to do is to solicit interested parties. Like, for example, we had Vote Montclair last year, or we have people who are active in government. People say that there's 400 people in Montclair who are active in government. So we'd like to solicit from those people the support to develop this or to establish this committee. And then the committee, this advisory committee, would kind of run itself and make nominations for the Board of Ed elected positions.
But would we be endorsing people or we would just?
We would not be endorsing people.
Right.
We would just be trying to push for an advisory committee that would have that function of searching out within the community people who might want to. run.
Right, we could be part of creating the structure, but we can't be part of the committee once it is created.
Okay, and then who would we work in collaboration with to create this advisory committee? Because, or would it just be the league on its own?
Well, I think it's probably going to be the league on its own, but you know, there are people that we all know that are interested in local politics, that are interested in Board of Education issues, that are interested in education issues. And I think we would tap people in the community whom we think would be interested in being on this committee and might know people that they think would be good candidates for the Board of Ed.
I mean, I could envision us, approaching other groups in town, nonpartisan groups in town, to see if they'd be interested to work with us to set up an independent advisory committee.
I actually think that we should do that because, we sort of did it alone with the whole appointed versus elected. And I just think something like this is more successful if you get more buy-in. And so I think that, if we were to do this, I think we have to try and get other organizations in town to support this and do it so it's more representative of.
Eva's making a comment, and then Jeanette, I know, has a question, but Eva's making a comment that Glen Ridge has something called the Civic Conference Committee, which serves this purpose. The candidates like it since they received help with the election campaign from this committee. So that's interesting. So maybe we can look at other towns too, to see what they're doing. Jeanette, I think Jeanette, did you have your hand raised, Jeanette?
Yes, my hand is raised. I have a couple of questions. And I guess my questions parallel those of Jamie's, but I see our role as not being the one to initiate this, not even going to other groups. If other groups want to initiate this, then that is for them to do. Then we get involved. Otherwise, it appears as if we are trying to structure this advisory committee so that we can help to decide who might want to run for the Board of Ed and so forth. And it appears to the public, it's going to appear as if we are getting out of our lane. We would need to know who's going to draft the bylaws, who's going to recommend committee members. We can't go to people and say, who would you like to have on it? We need to stay clear.
Yeah, I think we all understand that.
But nobody's saying that.
It's an idea. It's something that we support. The actual structure and actions around that have not been established yet.
And again, that's not for us to do. Let the townspeople pull that together and approach us.
Well, that's your opinion. Other people
No. If you believe that this is something that state and national would support, kindly show me the documentation that says, yes, that is something that we can do. Also, with what Glen Ridge has, that is a citizens group that was initiated. And again, show me the documentation that says that the League of Women Voters, local, state, and national, can get involved in initiating something like that.
Well, before we would do something like that, we'd make sure that we were in compliance with any state or national rules.
That should have been done before presenting this as an idea to our committee for, the annual meeting.
It's an exploratory idea that we support as a board. That's all.
Stay in your lane so that we don't get in trouble. Thank you.
Doris, you have a question?
Yeah, I think that this is being a little misunderstood because our role should be in requesting an advisory committee and maybe giving the town the rules or the ideas for what the advisory committee should do and how it should consist, but we cannot pick candidates. That's way out of our league.
Yeah.
Right. Which means we may not be able even to run the committee. We could only maybe set it up.
Yes, absolutely.
We can't. And again, if you can show me the documentation that says we would have that permission.
Mary Lee? You're muted. Take your mute. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't quite understand what this means, this whole agenda, because you said the board would explore some issues a minute ago, but does this represent our positions? I don't know that we've had any real discussion about changing the election date. I think many of us do not support the idea of moving to November.
I think, I'll jump in and I'll address this one. We've had 2 meetings on this. We had a meeting in January, we had a meeting in
I know,
January, we had the national one, and we had one in March where we just delved in deeply. We spent a lot of time talking about all these positions. We subsequently also ran a survey, an online survey, which granted was not heavily, not the whole membership participated in an attempt to also solicit feedback because there was no clear consensus coming out. So this is our chance, our final chance tonight to vote yay or nay. We don't need, I don't think, any more discussion on this. What we have are people that seems, you're allowed to have, different positions. And if we can't come to consensus on this, then we can.
So do we want to look at each of these positions and vote on them individually, Donna?
I think maybe, I think maybe that's probably a smart idea. That's what we did in March, so we can try and do it again.
We'll
We
do
should
it
let
again.
Carolyn Lack ask her question first. then.
Can I ask one quick question? Who can vote at this time on these positions? All members or just board members?
All members.
All members.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn,
Carolyn Lack, yeah, great.
Another
Thank you.
question.
Carolyn, you have a question?
Yes, I'm disturbed by the use of the words drop obsolete position and drop the league's current position. I recall at our discussion that people in the league felt that we should re-examine our positions and study them again in the light of the fact that there is a movement to make a change in their election date. Dropping the position, I don't recall that there was any consensus about dropping an obsolete position against the council manager form of government. That looks pretty bad.
No, I mean, Carolyn, I added the word obsolete. And the reason I added the word obsolete is because we have had this position on our books, so to speak, for 43 years. And it's never really been looked at. And the whole argument that made us support the council manager form of government, it's ended. The opposition was having a commission form of government. And so it was a commission form of government or a council manager form of government. So since 1979, we've had a council manager form of government, and there's no argument about that. So why do we still have this on our books? That's why I'm saying it's obsolete. It should have been dropped years ago. It should have probably been dropped once it was passed that that we supported a council manager form of government. But that just didn't happen. We just kept going along and just leaving it as a position. If there's
I would like to suggest that we drop obsolete position to re-examine our position on the council manager form and re-examine the election date rather than drop it, because I don't think that's the feeling of most.
We're not promoting any other kind of local government, so why would we not drop this?
I think
drop it after we have examined it and studied whether this is the best form of government for Montclair.
But there's nothing else being proposed, so why would we?
Well, that's
if there was something proposed, then we would.
Can you stop sharing? Let's stop sharing. Maybe we'll just take a time out here and discuss this.
I can't get in here.
Yes, I think it's important at this point to go line item by line item. Otherwise, we could be here all night. So why don't we take the housing?
Right. And also let's be clear. If we have a position that says re-examine, I hope that person that's suggesting it is going to be in charge of the committee to re-examine. Because we shouldn't be saying we're going to be re-examining something, when we're not going to be re-examining something, okay? So unless people are willing to step forward, seriously, and you know how much work went into the Board of Ed position, that is the level of that we're talking about now. So if we're not committed to doing that level of work, we should be dropping these positions, in my
Mary
opinion.
Lee's been trying to talk.
Yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding here. We maintain a position until the issue may develop. And then we want to continue to examine the issue. At that point, we would decide whether to review the position. But we don't just arbitrarily drop it because nothing's happened. The league nationally and has supported positions for years and years. They don't drop them until the issue becomes something we have to address. It is a whole lot easier to drop a position when you finally reach the point where the other, I'm not sure that the commission is our only option anymore. And the same thing, I feel the same thing. I'm disturbed by the education thing, which is suggesting that we're dropping our position on the elected board. And you know, you can always study it when the issue comes up if you've got it on the board. But if you take it off, you've got to start from scratch. And that does mean a lot of work. But if it's there, you can work from it. The whole thing does, to me, sounds like a misunderstanding of what it means to have a position.
Okay, thank you, Mary Lee. I think that we should, in the interest of time and make sure everybody gets heard, let's go one by one, because I think there's some things that are being
solve the problem.
No, but I think there's some things that are getting missed in people's assumptions of what we're doing here. So can we, I motion that we support the housing. And it's still on my screen. So our position is support zoning code changes to permit accessory dwelling units in Montclair. All in favor, say aye.
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 All against, say nay. Okay, so we got that one down. So then the other one is and I think what hasn't been made clear is, you know, some of us were on the call in March when we went through the local positions. So there was not clear consensus. Donna was taking copious notes, taking down names and how many people were in favor of what. And I remember it very clearly. We also had this survey, and this is reflective of the way the league works. Is we get all the information in from our program planning meeting, usually in January. Ours was in March this year. And then, you know, we didn't get enough. So we said, oh, let's do a survey. So we tried to get more information from a survey. And the survey and our discussion in March is reflective in these positions. So
I think it's a misunderstanding.
I think there are some, Mary Lee, I think there's some people who have been very committed to these positions. What we're not saying we're against the council manager form, we're just saying we're dropping it so that we can be part of the education, advocacy, and all that in the future. We could hold forums, we could do things like that. So
we would have to study the issue before we could do it.
But I think for the town council one, what Carmel's trying to say is that that's like having a resolution, the sky is blue, okay? No one's debating that. Town council form of government has not been under debate in Montclair in close to 50 years. So why do we have that still as a position? That's what makes it seeming to us newer members obsolete. So yes, if in fact, if there's a groundswell coming up that we need to, change the form of government in Montclair, well, then I would hope that we would start from scratch after 50 years ago was last time we looked at it. So let's start from scratch and look at whatever new forms of government might be out there that we might take a position on. I think that's what
That's what I was trying to say.
Right.
There are other forms. Obviously, if it comes up, we would address it. But to drop it
No, we
without,
wouldn't address it because what you're saying is that we want to keep the town council form of government no matter what.
no, it isn't.
Well, if we have the position in support of a council manager form of government, then it was like the whole Board of Ed thing. We had to support
We
the
had to support it.
appointed board because that was our position.
Can we vote on this
Same thing.
now?
What?
Let's vote on it, please. Less
No,
discussion.
no.
No, let's,
I'd
Can I
like to
say something real quickly?
before we
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry, can I say something real quickly?
Absolutely.
Sure,
Our
sure.
state
And this is
president
not,
has something
no,
to
no,
say.
hold on one second. This is not taking any position on any of your actions, but let me just give you an example. At the state level in our positions, we have support the lieutenant governor position to establish that in New Jersey, because the League of Women's Voters in New Jersey for years wanted that. Even though now, by constitutional amendment, the voters have said yes, and we've had now 3 lieutenant governors, we cannot take that out of our positions, because if we did and something changed, we'd have to study it again. So there's a lot of things in our study and action that every year people say, well, why do we have that? We already have a lieutenant governor. Why are we talking about it's with a minimum wage? Why do we have all this stuff? Why do we have stuff about allowing people who are undocumented to have driver's license? All this has passed because once you take it out in the league world, and I'm not saying this is good or bad, then you have to study it all over again.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
But so what's wrong with that? So you take it out and then you restudy it if something new comes up.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a resource issue. If you
But
have
you
the
do it at
resources to
that
do,
time.
but no, if you have the resources and the time to study stuff all over again, I just want to make sure you understand
Right.
the league world. And it's true that some of this should be like, well, why do we have that? Because we already have that. We have a lieutenant governor. We already passed the minimum wage. We already passed rights for prisoners on parole and probation. But it's still in there because if something changed, we don't have the resources, at least at the state level, to study this again for another 18 months. That's all I'm saying.
Can I
That's
ask a question? So there have been rumblings in town from certain groups that they do want to change the form of government. I don't know how realistic it is. I don't even know if this organization is even functional anymore, but there have been rumblings around where people question the current form of government. So my question is, let's say there was a proposal from some organization to change the form of government. That doesn't mean that we are still going to stand by our current position. I would think, based upon what everyone's saying here, we'd probably say, well, maybe this is a better form of government. At that point, we'd still need to study it, whether it was our current position or not, right?
No,
Yeah.
because our position is that we want the town council form of government, so we could not be out there advocating something else.
It was very similar
would
to the
like-
Board of Ed situation, Jamie.
Right, but that's why I'm asking this. So I guess what I'm saying is there could be a better form of government. I don't know. We'd want to study it. So what is the best way forward in order for us to keep an open mind about that?
To start fresh and drop this position in supporting council manager form of government. If something else comes up, then yes, if we wanted to, we could study it. If we didn't want to, we could just hands off and not even take a position.
Well, then
how about if we word it, so to bring everything to a head, because this is going on, why don't we word it re-examine the position of council manager form of government?
Well, who's going to do that? If there's
Well, if no one does it, then no one does it, but we are re-examining it. We can say our positions that we're re-examining it.
I disagree. Let's take a vote. Let's take a vote on it.
No, I didn't get a chance.
I'm
to
sorry.
speak.
I would like to know why we were
don't
sent
like
the information about the budget ahead of time, but we were not sent this information for us to think about before this meeting. And I think it is being sprung on us without giving us a chance to think about it. And I would like to see that dropped completely.
It
And
was
leave it-
sent. It was in the email, in the registration email.
On April 25th.
Yeah,
This
it was sent out to
position-
the whole membership.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Okay.
But we
May I
didn't see
ask-
an arbitrary decision by you. We assumed that this was going to be a position to be discussed.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
But it, oh man, this is
That's
not the
why
way
we're
to
voting
do it.
on it too. And also
No.
you have the opportunity to vote on it.
This is not the way to do it. We
How-
can all drop the position. When it comes up again, we may decide we want to drop the position. That's when we drop it, after we've looked at what else is being proposed. But we don't drop it before we know what's being proposed.
That's one way of doing it, but
Well,
another
that's
way
the way
of doing
we've always done it.
we've always done it that way.
Well, that's a big process.
You win the award,
It's a big
Marilyn.
process.
Yeah. All right, I think Jeanette hasn't spoken, then Frida.
Okay, thank you. When I am hearing the argument going back and forth, it seems to me that we can just reword the position to say that during the years, our position was,
Yeah.
we will, no, I'm just giving it a framework of years, not to get rid of it, just to say the years that this position was being used, that's all. And then
Sure.
saying, in the future, we will re-examine as needed. In other words, you have a book, basically it's like a book. You don't just throw the book out, you go back to it for the support you need for whatever documentation or position you have. So no, you don't just drop it. I'm suggesting that you say, using the words re-examine, but also saying the years that you held this position. That's all.
Thank you, Jeanette.
That might be the best of both worlds.
Frida, what do you like to say?
One
Frida?
other thing, just one other thing. I abstained from the housing position. So when you're looking at pros, cons, there are abstentions as well. And we can have seconds to making the motions and so forth. Thank you.
Since there seemed to be a major amount of discussion, is there a way that this could be tabled and separate meeting be held for a Montclair group to have a conversation, since it seems like there's a fair amount of dissension as it relates to some of these policies? And is it possible to do that at a separate meeting of just the Montclair folks,
I would
so that
say
the other people can move on, because we're trying to move on with the agenda.
I would say that there hasn't been a major dissension. There's been 3 or 4 people. We are 30 people on this call. I think at this point, the best thing is to take a vote and see how it
I
goes.
agree. We've already had meetings. We've had
Okay,
surveys.
fair.
It's time to vote. It's time to vote.
So first thing-
I would just like to say that this appears to be an old league, new league problem. And things aren't done the same way that we're used to doing them. At some point, we're going to have to turn the reins over to a new generation. I don't want to be obsolete, but there you go.
Very well said. Very well said. Let's
Okay,
take a
so we
vote.
voted on the housing issue, right? So I guess I can't make the motion since I talked about it. So I think, was it Susan? Were you going to make the motions
Yes,
about
I
this?
motion that the drop obsolete, well, we can get rid of the word obsolete, drop position on council manager, form of government in Montclair. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have 3 votes aye? Is that what we're seeing?
No, they're still raising their hands for questions. So maybe we should vote, because with your hands, meaning.
Why
not
don't we
with
use a
your
roll
hands.
call? Just read through the names, something to get a firm
Yeah,
vote, because
well,
it's contested.
Can you
Yeah.
get the text up on the screen again so we can see the words?
Yeah, why don't you put the text back up, Susan? And then, does everyone have the reactions button can you see your actions button? You can put
Thumbs up.
a thumbs up,
Okay,
okay?
Yep.
So the motion is on the floor to
What is it?
accept the
Susan
position, drop
stated it differently.
obsolete position, the local government one, drop obsolete position
I
on
get
council
it.
manager form of government in Montclair.
Can't
So
get it.
everyone in favor,
I
sorry?
didn't propose. I can't get the obsolete thing. I don't know what you're talking about.
There's
Let's
no
get rid of
obsolete on
obsolete.
this.
Let's get rid
All
of
right,
that.
drop, so
Okay.
drop the position on the council manager form of government in Montclair. So if you're in favor of that, go to your reaction button
I
and put a thumbs
can't,
up.
if you're asking for us to draw, I don't know the button you're talking about.
Well, we know your
Okay.
position.
We'll
Mary Lee.
count you as a
But
no.
that- Oh,
I've lowered your hands.
don't do that. No,
Then
no,
we
you
can't
said there
go-
was a place where we could hit something and I can't get that. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, so you see, do you see the reactions on the bottom? There's a button called chat, participants.
it's
These-
the icons.
Not
The
coming up.
icons.
That's all I'm telling you. It's not coming up.
She's
So
on
I participate.
Okay, so
an iPad.
just tell us your position then if you can't make it work.
Or just raise your hand. We'll see it.
Just
We'll
wanna,
see.
you know,
And if
everybody
we
should be
press,
doing the same thing.
if
don't
we
know why-
press that reaction button, does that mean we are in favor of the?
Yes, of
I mean,
dropping. You're in
Yeah.
favor of dropping the position on council manager form of government.
I don't know how I get to vote.
We're
So-
counting you as a no, Mary
I'm just,
Lee.
I'm just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing.
What we're doing is voting on whether we're agreeing to drop the position. And if
How do
you're
I
not
vote?
in agreement, if you're not, first, we're just asking if you're in agreement.
It keeps
So
disappearing.
everyone who's in agreement, and let's count.
Can't do this.
It keeps disappearing though. I think we just have to take a roll call.
It doesn't work.
If you
Okay,
do raise hand, it'll stay instead of the plus thumbs up.
Okay,
okay.
Oh,
I just
I'm not
don't, I just
ready
don't think that's certain enough to make everybody happy and feel like they're not being disenfranchised. We have a lady who is honestly thinking or feeling that she's being disenfranchised. How long will it take us to go through a screen, one person to go through a screen and ask for a vote? Why should we fight with the mechanics when people are having trouble with it?
right. Norm, would you like to do that? Because the
I'd be glad
screens
to.
roll
Free-
through.
Freedom, again, the question is, and if it's being dropped, the word obsolete won't matter. So all who are in favor, the question is, are you in favor of dropping that position? Frida, what's your vote? Yes or no? To drop?
Yes.
Yes.
Frida
Yes.
is yes. Okay.
The
Liz,
woman on the iPhone is voting yes, is on my screen.
Who is
unnamed.
that? I don't know. I'm trying to take the minutes here. Who voted? Who's on the
I
iPhone?
can't vote.
yeah, who's,
I am on I'm on my iPhone and I'm
that's,
voting yes.
Who is sorry?
Loretta is on, Simon is on an iPhone, I believe.
ladies, if you want me to do this,
Oh,
I'll be
hi,
glad to do
Loretta.
it. But if everybody's in it, we'll never get through it. So let's move
Let's
on.
mute
Marina,
everybody.
I'm making a note. If you haven't voted at the end, we'll come back to the people that say iPhone. Marina, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. Carmel, yes,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Joan? Donna?
Yes,
Jane?
Yes.
Barbara is muted. I'm assuming you mean yes because your hand's up. Norman is yes. Marina, we
Yes.
did, right? We did that already, right? Katie?
Yep, you voted me. Yes.
Katie, you got a check mark. Thank you, Katie. Carolyn? Carolyn Lack?
No,
No. Thank you, ma'am. Jeanette?
as it's worded, abstention.
It's not as it's worded. It's a yes or no, because if we vote no on it, Jeanette, it doesn't matter whether it says obsolete or not, you see. So if
No,
you're against it, yes or no?
I'm not voting for
Okay,
that.
abstention. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's fine. Mary Lee? Obviously a no, correct?
No.
Thank you, ma'am. Margie?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Katie? I
Yes.
already got Katie before.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm sorry. The pictures are moving around here. Jennifer is muted. She's not on our board. Great. Doris?
No,
Liz?
No,
Okay. Susan?
Abstain.
Okay, Shirley is muted. Would you give us a thumbs up or a thumb down, Shirley? You're muted.
Where do I find that little hand? I can't.
Yes, you
I
want to,
just say yes or no.
that's a yes. She said a yes. That's great. Okay, Randy is muted.
That was Adriana.
I'm yes, I'm yes.
Yes. Lois is a yes. Susan is a yes. Yeah, Adriana,
Yes.
thank you. I think we're over half yeses now, but let's finish. Jamie,
I'm gonna abstain from this one.
thank you. Lynn,
Abstain because of what Jennifer said.
okay. Eve,
Abstain.
okay. Noreen? Can't hear you, Noreen, you're muted. Yes or no?
Abstain.
Okay, Rita,
No.
Zainab? She's muted. Hopefully she's still there. Zainab,
I'm
yeah,
here.
you are. Yes or no, ma'am?
Abstain.
Okay, and Susan? You're yes, I see a check mark. Has anybody not been asked for their vote?
Yeah, you didn't call me. I'm Ricky.
Okay, Ricky, your picture keeps moving around. I'm sorry, dear. You know I wouldn't forget you. What's your vote, please?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think the votes are there. Who tabulated?
I'm trying to tabulate. Should I read off everybody again, just to be sure?
No.
No, just tabulate them. and let's
Okay,
rock.
so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2.
Norm, while she's counting, if you just look at the participant
I
list.
think there's
that is-
17 yeses. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That 17 is more than
Five.
30. The matter passes.
Okay, passes.
I'd like to hear the entire count, please.
How many abstained?
There's
Yeah.
5 no's and
She's
1,
working
2,
on it.
3,
She's
4,
working on it.
5.
I
You have a
have
total of 30. You have a
Six.
total of 29.
Well, I
because
have, unless I did it, I have 17 yeses, 5 no's, and 6 abstains. So that's
20 That's 28.
28. But then we had a couple of people, Zainab.
Yeah, Zainab didn't vote and the president doesn't vote, so that number is correct. 28 is the
Okay.
universe.
I did vote. I said
No one has
abstain.
asked me.
I'm sorry,
I
ma'am.
voted
I
Yeah,
no.
apologize.
Zainab
excuse me?
abstained.
Yeah, I
abstained,
abstained.
But we have
Okay,
all
so
the
that's
votes.
7
all the votes.
abstains, 5 no's, and 17 yeses. So the motion passes.
29 is the correct number.
Barely.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and that's the next one. I
Whoa.
think, Susan, you were.
Yes, I motion that, the next one is drop the league's current position of having Montclair's nonpartisan municipal election in May.
People have to put down their hands from the previous vote.
Okay,
You do that.
so Lauren, you want to do the honors again?
I'm glad to do it.
Let's see the text again, please.
Yeah, could you put the text up, please? And we'll get there.
They go drop the league's current position on having Moncler's nonpartisan. Yep, okay, got it. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'm gonna start as soon as I'm sure I've got everybody visual here. Okay,
So Norm, I'm not sure if you heard Doris, but if you go to the participant list, they don't move around.
great. Thanks for that, Doris.
Okay.
Great, very good. Okay. So I'm voting yes. Donna Ward.
She's a yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Susan.
There's too many Susans. Susan Mack is
Susan
abstain.
Mack, I'm sorry, I'll go down the list. Susan Mack,
Abstain.
Jane,
What are we doing?
We're voting on the next position, which is to drop the league's current position of having Montclair's nonpartisan municipal election in May. That means if you are in favor of dropping the position, you vote yes.
so I'm on to Jane O'Leary.
We've had no,
Yeah, discussion is
Voted
closed.
yes.
I apologize, but we're done with that. Jane is a yes. Frida,
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. This is, let's say it's Mary Lee,
No,
okay? And I got another iPhone, a purple iPhone. Who else is on an iPhone?
Loretta,
Loretta, yes, what's your vote, Loretta?
because it's not my community, I abstain.
Thank you, ma'am. Lois?
No.
Thank you, Lois. Barbara?
Yes.
Okay, Carmel?
Yes.
Carolyn?
No.
Doris?
No,
Okay, I've got a third iPad. Who's on an iPad and hasn't voted?
I am.
I think we got your vote, right, Mary Lee? So who else?
Yeah, you already voted.
Yeah,
It's got a sad face on it, an eye and an upside down frown.
well, you said
Let's
the
keep
stuff isn't
going.
moving, but it sure is moving on my screen. I'll tell you
It
that
is
much.
moving, yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll come back, and if you didn't vote yet, we'll get to you, okay? Because there's another iPhone. Let's go through the ones we know. Jamie Duffy, please.
Yes.
Jeanette,
Abstention?
thank you. Joanne,
Abstain.
Katie,
Yes.
okay. Lois. Ms. Donegan,
No.
Lois here? No, that was a no from Lois. Thank you, Lois. It just moved on me again. I think I was at Noreen.
Abstain. I live in
Thank
Glen
you.
Ridge.
Thank you. Liz?
I don't vote unless I have to break a tie.
Okay, thank you. That's true. Ricky?
Yes.
Lois, we got Susan Mack. You already
Abstain.
voted. Yeah. Susan Rosenblatt?
Yes.
Noreen, did you vote? Did Noreen vote?
She abstained.
She abstained.
Thank you. Okay. this-
Rosenblatt was a yes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a yes, yes. Adriana? Adriana? Going once, going twice. Miss O'Toole? Does anybody see her? I can't look both places. She's still here?
Yeah.
Yes, she's still here.
Is that a yes or a no, Miss O'Toole?
I voted yes.
Thank you. Okay, geez, the damn thing moved again. All right, I'm going to the bottom. Zainab?
It's Zainab? No.
Zainab, I apologize.
No.
No, thank you. Ms. Corbett?
Shirley,
Shirley?
Shirley, yes or no?
She's
Shake
muted.
your head, yes or no, Shirley.
Well, we'll come back. Randy Hawkins?
Yes.
Mariana?
Is that
Marina.
me? I'm a yes.
Marina,
Yes.
I apologize.
Yes, that's okay.
Marina.
Yes. Yes.
Carolyn, did I call you yet, Carolyn, dear?
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. Who has not voted, please speak up or raise your hand or
I haven't.
who are you?
Margie?
Yeah, Margie voted.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
Anybody
Sorry,
else who
can
hasn't voted, please wave your hand at the screen.
Eve Allen hasn't voted.
Yes,
She votes yes.
yes, okay.
Rita
How many
Singer
have you
says,
got?
Rita
Miss,
Singer
Rita,
says no.
Rita.
oh,
Rita,
Rita?
no.
Rita votes
No.
no. Sorry,
Shirley
Rita.
didn't vote. Shirley,
Noreen, I thought did vote. Did she not?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Shirley did not vote.
Okay.
Lynn did not vote. I abstain.
Lynn?
Sorry,
Okay.
Lynn.
It's okay.
I'm leaving out all my guys. Sorry. Okay, so Shirley's the only one that we don't have. Do the
So
numbers?
Shirley, are you voting yes or no? You can just put thumbs up or thumbs down. She's
Just
still
wave
muted.
your hand.
She doesn't
you're
understand.
muted, Shirley.
I've tried to ask her to unmute. Yes or no?
Do it again. Demonstrate for her again, up or down with the thumb.
Up or down?
Down.
Down.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
Down.
Thank you.
We
You
got
have
it.
20,
We
you
got
have
it.
29, Madam Secretary, Madam Treasurer.
Okay, that sounds right because we don't have Liz voting.
Right.
And we don't have Jennifer voting.
Right,
So that would be 28.
right. So how?
And that's right. Carmel, do you have 28?
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry. You're the numbers person. I thought you had it. Thank you.
I have actually 29. 29. How do I have 29?
Is it close?
Read it. Read it.
No.
I
down.
didn't vote.
No.
I didn't vote.
Okay, so it's 14 yes, 7 no's, and 8 abstains. So
Okay,
the
so-
motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Okay. It's the education, the township passed and education. Let me get it up here. The township passed a referendum in favor of an elected Board of Ed. The league has consensus. This is just a statement of fact. The league has consensus for an independent advisory committee of community members to identify and nominate Board of Ed candidates. That was part of our existing consensus that we painstakingly went through last fall.
We have 17 people that are against us having a consensus. No, so I think we're okay. Any other,
No,
Susan?
I see a generational change happening. It
Sorry.
happens.
Can we-
you know?
what-
So what are you saying? Did
What are
we
you
vote?
saying about this education thing?
Susan, let's make the motion.
Yes, I motion that we confirm our position for having an advisory committee to help identify and nominate Board of Ed candidates.
Yes.
No, we don't want to identify candidates. We want to identify.
No, the board, the advisory panel identifies and nominates Board of Ed candidates.
Right,
The league does not. The league is just in favor of this structure in our community.
correct.
Okay.
So take a vote.
Wait, I just have a question because I want to understand, even though I was involved in this
Sure.
early on. We're just saying that we're in favor of an advisory committee, but again, our role is what?
To help form the advisory committee, not to vote.
Not to pick candidates, just to
No,
Not
to
to pick
help
candidates, right.
structure it, not to form it.
Yeah.
Right, just to like how many people would be on it, what would
What-
they do, what's the do's and don'ts of the advisory council, not anything to participate in the advisory council.
Or in selecting the people.
Exactly.
Shall we take a vote?
Yes.
Do we
Okay,
need to
I'm gonna leave the iPhone people out of it. Oh, you want to just go by acclamation in this case?
Maybe, yeah, that might be.
Try.
Okay, all against it say no. No.
No.
Meaning we're not in favor of it?
No. Right,
Not
we're
in
not in
favor of
favor of
us.
having an
Right.
advisory panel that the League of Women Voters has anything to do with.
No.
So how many
Correct.
says no?
So I see Jeanette.
I don't understand. This was part of our position. I don't understand what the vote is for.
Not
Right, why are
everybody
we
agreed
starting
with
with
the
the, why are we
position.
starting with a no? We should be starting with a yes, like with everything else.
Well,
Because
think
I thought
Carmel's
there'd be
point
less
was there
people
would be
with a
less
no.
no's. Yeah,
That's
I think
why.
Carmel was saying
We
there'd
already
be
have
less
a
no's.
consensus. We have a yes already.
We had a consensus of a few number of people, Susan, if you remember correctly.
We can either do the vote by head vote, or I think Carmel's idea is not bad because I think there are probably fewer no people. I don't know that, but it's possible. So if we can grab the no's, we'll know that we'll have a bigger number.
Okay,
I'm
so this-
sorry, I'm just not understanding. So this is to vote on whether or not we support an advisory committee
Yes,
to
yes.
determine candidates?
Yes.
Yes,
And so by voting no, we're saying we don't want to have anything to do with this.
That's
Right.
correct.
We are not in favor of an advisory committee to be part of our town.
That's a different way to
But like,
go.
we have an elected board, so why would we, you know what I mean? Like, why would this still be a thing?
So just like Glen Ridge has an elected Board of Ed also. There are other towns in the state that have elected boards, and they have this independent advisory committee related to the township that helps identify and vet council members. I mean, one of the things that came out of our consensus was that if we, the only data actually about an elected board was that, or any Board of Ed, a successful board, was if you have different skill sets of people on the Board of Ed, that those are some of the best boards of ed.
Okay.
I
understand.
That's
Thank you for
hard to
that.
do with, 9 people running by themselves. It's just a way to.
And an unfortunate
no, thank you.
situation
I
could be
needed
that in some communities, the board itself picks candidates, or the mayor picks candidates.
Well,
or
yeah.
whoever.
Mary Lee, you have something to say?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Does this mean we are dropping our position on supporting an appointed board?
No.
No. But yes,
Doesn't affect that
It
at all.
doesn't say that.
No,
it's a
It
dopey
doesn't
way.
say anything about that issue.
it's only dealing with the circumstance we're in now, where we have an elected board, but it doesn't affect if there were to be an appointed board again.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Are we retaining our position on the support of an appointed board?
Has nothing
Why
to do-
don't we say that if we are?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go. It's getting dark.
Where are we going, folks?
We're voting on to support the council's providing a support group or an investigative
But I
report.
think Mary Lee asked a question that was not answered.
Right. What is the full position that we have now
We don't
from the
have,
materials? They're not the PowerPoint, but the full materials.
Yes, our existing position is that we are for, this was out of our September consensus meeting last fall, that we are for an appointed board. And that, but however, we are in support of an independent advisory committee to help identify and vet and nominate Board of Ed candidates.
So
So
that's
this is just an addendum, if you will. This is an addendum to our existing appointed board
this is
position.
confusing the way it's presented.
Right, since we already have the elected Board of Ed, the focus was more on the advisory committee. component of it.
Doesn't affect our position on whether we want an appointed board, but while we have an elected board, we want an advisory committee. And that's what we're saying here. That's a yes vote. A no vote would mean that you don't want us to participate in any way in formulating such a board or participating in the formulation of such a board.
Okay,
But
so
it-
take a
Ready to go?
vote.
So it's
Mary
just-
Mary Lee, why don't you give us the first vote? Yes or no?
Pardon?
Yes or no?
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you asking me?
Are you in favor?
Are you in favor of what's
Wait,
written on the
one
PowerPoint?
person. Are you in
Well,
favor of us? Are you in,
confused.
Mary Lee, let me explain it to you. Are you in favor of the league participating in the creation or the undertaking of a board to advise on potential candidates for the elected Board of Education, or should we not be involved in that at all? Am I good there, Donna? Was that all right?
That's
I just want
correct.
to be sure.
Yeah.
Mary Lee,
No.
we need your vote. Yes or no, ma'am?
No,
No, okay. I vote yes. Jane?
I vote no.
Thank you. Donna?
No.
Okay. Carmel?
No,
Jamie?
No.
Doris?
Yes.
Carolyn?
Yes.
Jeanette?
No.
Liz? You don't
I
vote.
don't-
Sorry, Liz. Oh, it just moved on again. Margie?
yes.
Frida?
No.
Carmel?
you got me already.
Thank you. Carolyn?
Carolyn voted already.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I can't tell because it moves.
That's
Joanne?
okay.
No.
Susan?
Susan Mack is yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. There are more Macs. Yes. Rita Singer is muted. Randy Hawkins is
Yes.
muted. Rita's a
Okay,
yes.
Rita Singer is yes.
Randy?
And I'm a no, I'm a no.
Thank you, Randy. Lynn?
No.
Ricky?
Yes.
Lois?
No.
Okay. Katie?
Yes.
Adriana?
Are we voting in favor of providing a, we're still not said if I'm voting yes or right? No. I'm in favor of the league supporting.
Participating?
Yes.
Okay, so she's a yes. Thank you. Noreen, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you, Noreen. Susan Rosenblatt,
Yes.
Eve,
Yes.
Shirley, you're muted. Yes or no, please? Can't hear you, dear. You're muted. Give us a thumbs
No,
up or a
I think
thumbs down.
she said yes.
I think she's muted. I don't think we could have heard her unless she's in
No.
your living room.
Well,
Shirley, could you give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, please? Yes, up, down, no? See, that's a yes, nod, or
Yes.
thank you.
Jumping in.
And for free, I said Frida. Who has not voted? Because there's another computer name here.
This is Zainab. I haven't voted yet, and I'm
I'm sorry,
voting no.
Zainab. No for you, thank you, ma'am.
Colbert,
Marina, did you vote?
I didn't vote yet, and I'm voting yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Who else? Anyone else?
how about Shirley Colbert? Did you get a?
Yeah.
Did you get Barbara Mulder? Yes.
No, but I don't think I did, but we've got it now, yes. Thank you. Susan Rosenblatt, yeah. How many of you got when you get a chance, Carmel?
Count them up.
Thank you, yeah, because I think we may have them all.
This was one of the many reasons we wanted to meet in person, so we didn't have to go through this painstaking process. So
Yeah, this is a horrible way to do it, but
we appreciate everyone's patience.
yeah.
Someone has dropped off the call. Someone has dropped off the call. Our total is now 29. Could it be our state president that has left this craziness, or?
God, I hope
No,
so.
she's hanging in there. Jennifer's still hanging in there. God bless her.
God bless you.
Now we're down to 28.
She's gonna report us back to Trenton. What a bad job we're doing tonight.
I have 28, right? It's 28.
That's what we have, yep.
Okay, so the yes have it. The motion passes.
Okay.
That's pretty dangerous.
Can you read the results, please?
15 yes, and 12 no, and 1 abstain.
Okay, thank you. That was
Is
pretty.
that the last
close.
one?
Yep, thank
I
God.
I regret that I have but one life to live for my league. Okay.
We can get through the rest of this. I want to be respectful of people's time. So we have a nominating slate. This is everyone that's on this chart right here is everyone that's on our board.
Yes.
The folks in red.
And if I haven't mentioned your name before, I'm sorry.
So the folks in red are up for election, and I would say just, well, I'm one of those people, so I can't motion.
Can't move either.
Donna, I think you were going to motion on this.
Oh,
one.
sorry. Yes.
And I think ask for nominations from the floor for anybody.
Yes. Sorry. Are there any nominations from the floor for any of these positions?
Well, I think we have a new position, a fundraising committee that be chaired by Jamie Duffy.
Oh, boy. Wait, I'll be part of it. I'm not gonna be the leader yet. Let's just ease my way into it.
We have it. We've recorded you. You said you would be the leader.
Okay,
Let's
let's move on.
Let's stay focused.
I'm involved. I am.
So
being totally
Jamie,
involved.
would you like to serve on the board?
Would I like to serve on the board? Do I have to decide that right now?
Well, this is the time when we choose the next board. So let me just quickly thank the rest of the outgoing board. Some of them are both outgoing and will be newly elected. So other than the executive committee that you've met already, the other directors are Lois Donegan, the Social Justice Committee, and Doris Shapira, who has been doing our voter for longer than she would like. Susan and Ron, Susan Mack and Ron Pate, who are our spectacular connection membership committee. They've done wonders. Ann Moore, who helped us develop our website, and Donna Ward for voter service. We also have off-board committee chairs. So you can chair a committee without having to be on the board. We have Jeanette Williams for education, Kathleen Keegan, youth voter service, and Joyce Harley, co-chair of the Social Justice Committee. I want to thank everybody for their service to the League of Women Voters. And thank you for your commitment to democracy. And now we're going to go to the nominating slate. Do I really have to read those?
No, I think
Donna
everybody
is gonna motion.
I think we can read that. Everybody can read those. And are there any other nominations from the floor? Otherwise, I'd like to move that this slate be accepted as presented.
Second,
Can we vote by acclamation? All
Yes.
those in favor, say yay.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay.
Anybody against? Okay, so moved and accepted. Thank you.
So this is the sheet that Liz was just talking about. Anybody wants to see it and
Oh.
she shouted out everybody, which is great.
Right. Okay, so we're moving on. We're almost done, I swear. Because I know that we're taking up a lot of time. These are examples of some of the projects that we're going to be working on for 2022, 2023. If there are any other projects or any other ideas that people have, if you're too tired tonight to think of them, I understand, but definitely email me. We'll make sure that we get your projects to the right committee person. Are there any specific directions to the board that anybody has at this time?
Get your act together.
Get our act together. Excellent. We'll work on that.
Can I ask you a question about these projects?
Yes.
Just given yesterday's events and what happened in
Yes.
Buffalo and the mom of kids who are going to school, it's a scary time. Clearly there's a problem. There's a lot of different factors involved with this gun violence. Is that something that the league would get involved in, and to what extent? Because there doesn't seem to be any movement in Congress, right?
Right. I mean, the league has definitely a number of positions on gun safety and gun control at the national level, for sure. The league has taken positions on this. So it would be appropriate for our league to get involved if the membership wanted to do that.
And I sent out a note to the education committee asking for your help and to get back to me. If you can get back to me by Friday, so that we can come together and discuss what kinds of things need to be done with reference to Montclair, to make certain things are in place for Montclair. And I will go over that. And again, we can brainstorm and so forth. So I can give you my information.
Mhm.
And so anybody who's on the meeting now, if you want to reach out to me, please feel free to do so. I will give you my cell number right now, so you could either call or text a message to me. So it's
You can
Jeanette
put that-
Williams.
Put it in the chat.
Can you put it in the chat,
Sure,
Jeanette?
thank you. Will do.
Put it in the
Thank
chat.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because
just
I
let
think it could fall within the education committee, because I already reached out to the Board of Ed today, Dr. Ponce.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And
I'm
this
glad
is
it's
also,
going to be addressed.
and we haven't gotten to it yet, but we are going to have an event on June 22nd, which we'll put gun safety on this. Jamie, thank you for that addition. I think that's something that we definitely want to be working on. So on June 22nd, we're going to how do we make a difference day or evening? So we will be, this is just the step one of that part of it. Does anybody else have any other ideas of what they'd like to have seen?
As we're doing this, we'll move on, but if you have any other ideas now, just put them in the chat.
Yes.
We'll pick them up.
And I really want you to think about joining the board. We have a couple of openings for directors. We would love to have you. So give it a thought and contact me or Donna or Susan.
Okay. And then Donna, you're queuing up. So
Yes.
I would like to introduce a news clip that features two of our members who are we're part of the Women's March on May 14th in Westfield. And
Uh-oh.
unmute, just unmute, yeah.
Yeah, hold on. You know what? I have to, I did the thing that I always say not to do, which is not to.
Called for a
You need
nationwide
to, sorry, go ahead.
action in support of women's right to choose. News 12 New Jersey's Naomi Yane spoke with some of those people who came out to the rallies today. Naomi, what did they say?
Hey there, Tina. Listen, they had plenty to say in support of women's reproductive rights. We saw people who are known activists, people who are non-activists, and even young girls attended these rallies today across the country. Again, this is for a nationwide day of action. Here in our state, we caught several of them also, and again, all for the common cause of allowing women to maintain control over their bodies.
We are literally in the fight of our lives for women. And if we don't do it, who will?
Activists gathered around the state and around the nation today in solidarity for a woman's right to choose.
We have got to make our voices heard. And what happens today
Yay!
multiplied 1,000 times. I honestly believe that these are just the beginnings of what we have to do to protect our rights.
Many of the rallies we've seen across the country have been in direct response to a leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court of the United States that would overturn Roe v. Wade.
And it's easy to view this as a women's issue only, and it's not. Without men who understand the importance of this to women being involved in this, I just don't think there'll be progress.
In Westfield, members of this community braved the weather and participated in a We Won't Go Back rally, referencing a time before Roe v. Wade. The decision would end nearly 50 years of federal protection for abortions.
This is an outrageous time to be a woman. We are finding that the Republican Party is doing everything they can to squash our reproductive rights.
In Metuchen, Planned Parenthood hosted a rally where First Lady Tammy Murphy spoke, and the First Lady said if abortion access is restricted in this country by a reversal of Roe v. Wade, it would be a setback for women's rights.
It's a fight that was started decades ago, and sadly the Supreme Court wants to possibly overturn this, and if they do, it will send us back many, many years.
Everyone's issue, not just women's, everyone's issue.
Now, earlier this week, the governor called on the legislature to pass a measure that would protect providers, so doctors, as well as patients who may come to New Jersey looking for abortion care, coming from states that outlaw, where abortion is outlawed. He also renewed his push to make abortions free in New Jersey.
Across the country, we're seeing rallies and marches condemning recent reproductive vote for a.
Very nice, Norman, Margie.
Yes.
Be proud of our.
Yes.
And then one of our members here, Marina Miller, who is right here, is ahead of the game and has already organized a fundraiser. I'll let her talk about it on June 7th.
Thank you, Susan. I want to invite all of you and any of your friends and family that want to join for a pro-choice dance party, which is a dance-a-thon, where 100% of benefits are going to Yellowhammer. For those of you not familiar, I'm sure most of you are, but Yellowhammer is an organization that helps provide abortion access in the Deep South, in Alabama and the Florida Panhandle. So our fellow uterus having friends in the most vulnerable states, we'd like to be able to assist them. And so I'm putting in the chat right now a link for those of you who want to go register or share with others who want to register. This is an Identify as Women and Femme event. And so we hope to see you all there. Please reach out to me if you have questions. There'll be a silent auction. There's a DJ, there'll be food. It's going to be really fun. And I think it's going to feel a little bit like a, both a release and doing something good at the same time for, I only speak for myself here, but I think many women are just shouldering the burden of so much right now, right? From thinking about how our kids are going to get home safely from school, to talking to them about their fears about what's happening at school, and advocating for our reproductive rights in our spare time. And so, please reach out if you have questions. I would love to see you all there and meet you in person.
And I just want to put a plug in, even though the price is stated as $25, I'm sure if you wanted to donate more, they would be more than welcome to receiving it.
I think it's a great idea. I love it.
I do too.
And promoting the heck out of it.
Great flyer.
Yep.
And then we have some other events coming up. We have our National Trails Day. Our environmental committee is sponsoring that as part of their We Love Eagle Rock Reservation events. June 7th is that dance party we just talked about. We'll be marching in July 4th at the 4th of July parade and registering voters. So hopefully everyone will get out and participate in that. We have a lot of voter registration opportunities. So go on the website. It's all set up. Just click register, what time slot you want to choose. Here's examples of where we're going to be around the area registering voters. So please come out and help us do that. And also voter education. We don't do just registering voters, but we also talk to voters about how they can either, change their address or get a vote by mail, or any other questions they have about voting. And then of course, coming up is next week is the June 7th primary election. So hopefully everyone, encourage people that Republicans and Democrats, to come out and vote in the congressional elections for that. And then last but not least, of all the stuff that we've talked about tonight, we're now set with our program for the year. And I feel like we really discussed and we now understand our program because we participated in it. But now it's time to put it into action. So we planned a fun social event on June 22nd, an in-person event, which will be much nicer at the First Lutheran Church. Outside if it's sunny, inside if it rains. So either way, we'll be together where you can come out, speak to all the committee chairmen, learn about all these projects in detail, sign up for stuff that you want to work on for the year. Because this only works if we get you to participate and help us. And there's so much that we're doing as a league. There's got to be something that you'll be interested in working on. So please come on June 22nd and talk to us and determine what it is that you want to work on for the year. Thanks. Anybody have anything else to say? Liz, Susan?
Just thanks for all your time, the 2 hours. I apologize, but it was well worth it.
Yes, I feel that we.
Can I mention a couple of things? Can I mention a couple of things? Oh, sure. So just tomorrow, if you didn't know, is our lobby and rally day for same-day voter registration. That's down in Trenton. That's at 10 o'clock. It's really important because we are focusing on same-day voter registration as one of the pieces in voting rights and elections in New Jersey. I'm so happy to be part of this meeting today. It's Democracy in Action. You listened to thoughts, you took some votes, and I don't know your bylaws. You're a large league, so hopefully you had a quorum to have this meeting and do your bylaws. Hopefully I'll be seeing some of you at the Denver convention. I know that Louise Haberman is registered.
Yes.
You were talking earlier about how much LWV US gets out of your PMP. You know, one of the structural task force changes that's going to be voted as a bylaws amendment is to actually change the membership due structure so that local leagues and state leagues will be getting more money. More money. Okay, and less will be going to the national organization. But as you just said, Donna, nothing helps unless you participate. So if you don't participate in the convention and register as a delegate, then you can't vote for this change. So, you know, hopefully those of you, it's still not too late to register. I think it's June 5th or June 6th to register for the convention. I know Louise is there. I'm not sure if I recognize any other names who are registered. And this is a hybrid convention, so you can do this in the comfort of your beautiful home in Essex County, New Jersey, or you could come out to Denver. But thank you all so much. This is a wonderful meeting. You're a very active league, you're a growing league, and hopefully, you know, all the voices are being heard with all the issues that you bring up.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Jennifer.
so much,
Appreciate it.
Jennifer.
Thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate your support.
Yes.
Any other comments that anybody wants to say?
I want to say that remember the old motto that democracy is not a spectator sport. So we hope that all of you will take part.
Yes. Well said, Doris. Thanks so much. Great.
I'd like to thank Donna and Susan for seeing me through this annual meeting. They've done a great job. Anybody who had anything to do with putting this meeting together, I feel like I owe you a drink or something. Thank you all for attending, the new members, old members. I see we are kind of entering a generational divide, and the next few years should be very interesting. So thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And on that note, good night.
Good night. Thank you to everyone.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Adjourned. The meeting is adjourned at 8:54.
Oh, I'm adjourning the meeting at 8:54.